Welcome to the Mad Love Your Life show. I'm Mary D, the Joy Catalyst, here to be your host and transformation guide. Mad Love is about the mad, making a difference, and love is what we serve up to live a delicious life. My intention is to help you spark new ideas, break limiting beliefs, and align with your deepest dreams and desires. Get ready for laughter, inspiration, and finding your inner roar in every show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mad Love Your Life show here on Bold Brave TV. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you all for heading over to the YouTube channel as well and subscribing there. I appreciate all of your listens, shares, and likes. Today, I have a very special guest for you. He is someone that is near and dear to my heart. Started out as friends and then clients, back to being friends. And he's got an amazing product. He's got an amazing business, and he's got an amazing heart. And we're going to share all of that with you today. My guest is Barton Scott. He is a biochemist, a behavioral nutritionist. He has spoken around the world, and he is the founder and CEO of upgradedformulas.com. Upgraded Formulas helps people around the world heal, find more energy, sleep better, lose weight, and get off medications and reverse age. Y'all, who doesn't want to reverse their age? Back in 2015, Barton developed a unique industrial process using his background in chemical engineering to produce a new category of minerals called Stabilized Nano Minerals, using a nanoparticle technology that absorbs very easily without the need for normal digestion, and at-home hair analysis testing to know which supplements you need to restore the most fundamental nutrient deficiencies in the body quickly and easily. Today, Upgraded Formulas has an incredibly innovative line of products, now backed by a double-blinded clinical trial showing the most impressive sleep improvements, among many other things, such as deep sleep, REM sleeping improvements, both with over 150% in only 14 nights. And that is from a supplement, y'all. That's never been heard of. And among other solutions, such as at-home hair analysis kits for identifying and restoring nutrient deficiencies. Today, they're working on a book deal covering an interesting link to how nutrition becomes personality, and also a second clinical trial on fertility. And we're going to talk all about this today. All of this is really crucial because our soil around the world has been treated so poorly, resulting in really low levels of minerals in our food across the board. And upgraded formulas is then they've quantified nanotechnology, and they also support charitywater.org in the great work that they do. And a portion of each sale provides clean water for people in those developing countries. And we're going to talk so much more today about so many other things. But Barton, I want to welcome you to the show. And I just want to say thank you for coming on today. It's such a pleasure to have you. And, these products have been products that have changed my life for sure. Many people know my story about coming out of breast cancer and just really, really taking a double dose of getting to the place where I can, really get back to my health, really own my health. And your products have been such a really, really beautiful part of that journey. For those of you that don't know, Barton's got a new product that came out this last year called Upgraded Tea. We're going to talk about testosterone and women and how this is not just a men's thing. We're going to talk about upgraded metabolism because it's my favorite product and I want to talk about it because I love it so much. I know the difference when I take this one. And we're also going to talk a little bit about upgraded magnesium. This is the liquid version. So y'all, for those of you who do not like to take pills, these are going to be a breath of fresh air because so many of these minerals, they actually are in liquid form. So you can just drop them into your water bottle. You can drop them into your water. Most of them are tasteless and you won't even know it. And you're going to be getting mineralized. So many good things. Barton, welcome. Thank you. And let's start with the first question. And the first question I have for everyone is, what do you know now that you wish you had known before you ever got started with Upgraded?
That it's a process. and that anything that you're looking to do, if it's innovative, or if you've never done it before, or both, if it's a stretch, pack a lunch and don't get frustrated if it doesn't happen overnight, or in your timeline. So
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. I think so many CEOs and anyone that's creative or anyone who's sitting in that visionary seat, they have such a an idea, sometimes a very clear idea of what the destination they know they want to get to or the thing they want to get to, and they forget that
mm,
there's this whole journey, and unfortunately the road is not always a direct line straight up. It's kind of like this, and then it goes over
yeah,
here and then goes back over here.
or
Yeah, it's a wavy road, right? It's not that straight line we all think it's going to be. So I actually appreciate you sharing that piece, because it's a really good reminder for everyone, and that's so good. Now I want to hear a story from you, because I think everyone deserves to hear this particular story, and I'm sure you have many others to share, and I want you to share them all. But this one I want people to hear about the turning point for you, which was when you were working in oil, and
mhm,
you were like, I think in your 20s, and you were
yeah,
like sick like an 80-year-old. Like, let's talk about that story,
yeah.
because I think people should hear that story.
Oh, it's just so wild. I think part of so there's like three things at work there, at least. One, I had been an athlete my whole life, and like a lot of people, I had pushed myself from an early age. And what that meant was, in sports like wrestling, where you're making weight, I was constantly on the negative side, going into the red without realizing, in terms of nutrients, right? So you're burning more than you spend. So it's a lot like having a budget and totally exceeding your budget, and your cash flow and everything. So, to put it in financial terms, the other thing was, my mom was getting more and more, just sick from medication, really, and
Mm,
was living a low stress life, had good access to normal medical care. But as we know so much more clearly today in 2024 than we did in 2010, there just weren't great options, especially in, I grew up in Louisiana, coastal Louisiana, and there, functional medicine there, she was very curious, and she would find people that were, um, really thought of as quacks. I remember hearing this term, like, oh yeah, this guy's muscle testing. What is that? And
right.
now today I teach like rooms full of people to muscle test in like 30 seconds. And so it's like, oh, even then as a kid, I was like, I don't know about that. So, I was very skeptical, even at 8 years
Skeptical.
old or something, when I first was hearing about some of these things.
Yeah.
And but so she was doing everything she could. She was following bad advice, and we didn't know it,
Mm,
even on the supplement side of things, because one of the failures was really not testing, or not testing the right things, or not testing in the right ways. So those are two things. Me as an athlete, a lot of deficiencies. I didn't realize at the time that's what was holding me back in my health, because I was, because of so many sports and sort of hyperactivity, I was still fit. I just wasn't healthy at all. I had tremendous brain fog and felt sort of ADD, even though I knew I wasn't. And I knew,
mm,
at the core of anything that you would feel like ADD, that's just a symptom. That is maybe you need sunlight, maybe you're overworked, maybe you're over caffeinated, maybe you didn't sleep. I mean, you can take a totally normal person that's never felt ADD, and you give them those conditions, and they will feel temporarily like they have ADHD or ADD. And
mm,
so, but that became my normal. And then I stacked on a third thing, which was, I went to the doctor, and I had supplemented Vyvanse from friends here and there, Adderall. I was trying different things, and I was like, oh, maybe this is the ticket. So I was doing chemical engineering at the time. I was like, wow, this is a lot to keep in your head. And and so I went and did that, and that was the worst mistake I ever made. So I'm very passionate about speaking to people and speaking into their lives. Hey, you don't need this. It might feel emotionally addictive, even though they say it isn't chemically addictive, but it is a methamphetamine. Therefore, it is technically worse if you're caught with Vyvanse or Adderall, if they want to prosecute,
Yeah.
than cocaine. Um, so
Oh.
because it is chemically similar to meth, it is a methamphetamine. And
Mm.
so I glossed over that fact as I was like, I just use it for a little while. It's, doctors are saying it's fine.
Right.
Things I would never do today. Um, and that was a great breeding ground for distrust in the medical system, both of those things. So I was trying to get myself well. I was trying to get her well, and neither approach was going very well. And I finally found a test that was really helpful. And meanwhile, I'm struggling with things I've never struggled with thanks to Vyvanse. I felt like I had Crohn. I probably, if I had been diagnosed, they would have said, "Hey, you have IBS or Crohn's or something like that." I had difficulty focusing because I had to live around a restroom through a couple of years of college. I had, honestly, some of these problems were so severe, but 10 years later, I sort of forgot about them. And so
Mm.
someone was mentioning this recently. I was like, oh, yeah, I had those problems too. I was just such a, oh, well, I'll just get through it sort of mindset, um, and adapt. And so I say this only in the hopes of this being helpful for people, in going into depth in this, to say that no matter what you're struggling with, I had hypothyroid for the majority of my life, I would say, up until a couple of years ago. Now I would say I'm just barely outside of hypothyroid, which is a huge accomplishment, really, because you have to overcome heavy metal toxicity, mineral deficiency, all these different things, sunlight deficiency, blue light toxicity, and just a lot of the mindset things that come along with that. And with not feeling great for years and wiring more and more neural connections in that direction. So I've done
Yeah.
an immense amount of neuro reprogramming, and we've done psychedelics in group settings. They're like
Yeah, we
very
have.
practitioner led. Like these are like, we've done. You and I both have done some of the most, I think, difficult and immensely powerful things out there. And we really connect in that. And I was always that way. I was always willing to do whatever it took to have a great life and to create impact, right?
Yeah.
And feel of service, and to be of service to people. It's really difficult to do it without overcoming all these traps: the medication trap, the listening to your parents trap, or taking advice from people that they haven't done what you're trying to do, and they're not an
Yeah.
expert in it, but they have an opinion and they're close to you. Those traps,
Mm.
the the I don't have enough time trap, the I don't have enough money trap, the I don't have enough knowledge trap. There's so many
Yeah.
things, right? So
Yeah.
that's where it started, and ultimately, I realized that the supplements weren't absorbing that we started taking, including her. I realized that I was deficient in things I'd been taking for years. I realized she was deficient in things. I realized she was highly overburdened in things she
Mm.
was taking. So she was causing deficiencies and causing toxicities like too much calcium. That
Yep.
led to the bone spurs. That led to ultimately um, the aneurysm, and
Mm.
um, and so it's crazy to think, but it seems likely at this point that literally just supplementing way too much calcium pretty much daily is what led to her mom, my mother's early demise,
Mm.
and magnesium deficiency and a few other things, because the the arteries in the brain and in the heart, if they have too much calcium, they kink like a hose that's left out in the sun, and
Mm.
that easily becomes brittle. The body doesn't like brittle, and it's amazing what can happen with that. And it's amazing too that you can reverse all of this. And I think that's the hope inspiring thing. So
Yeah.
went on this path to find solutions for better supplements, and many years later, uh, I've developed something that helps a lot of people get well and reverse deficiencies, and realize the need for, or a lack of need for for a lot of medication too over time.
Yeah,
So,
love that.
mhm,
So good. So good. Yeah, and I want everyone to hear this part because I know that there are people who are waking up daily with their own chronic illness. I know there are people who are waking up or they're looking in their medicine cabinet and it is full of prescription drugs and they're like, "Wow, how do I stop the madness?" Right? My mom is definitely one of those people. She's in her 80s and has a lot of heart stuff going on this last year and and she on top of that has Parkinson's. So there's multiple doctors working with her on multiple things. And I notice they're not always double checking themselves. So I'm constantly going in to look at her medications and how much of something she's taken. She
mm,
feels in her heart. And my mom is definitely she's very much in human design, she's a generator. And she for sure is the generator who feels very clearly the uh-huh and the nuh-uh. And for
mm,
her, the pharmaceuticals are such an uh-uh and they
yeah,
make her really sick. And it was interesting to be in the hospital with her once and watching the hospital's doing the best that they can. They're on
sure,
the schedule of like, oh, she needs to be taking this medicine, and I'm like, okay, she does need to take that medicine and she hasn't eaten anything. So how about she eats something first and then you give her the medicine? Otherwise, this is all going to be a defeated purpose where she's going to throw up. Now the medicine
yeah,
is no longer in her system and there's still no food in her system. She's going to still feel sick and now blood pressure is going to start getting wonky and that's exactly what happened. So
yeah,
it's wild to think about how also our body still can become reliant on some of these things. And so how can we also get as close, to nature when we're eating things like that. And
mm,
one thing I want to go back to is what I mentioned in the intro, which was how there is hair mineral testing, because I think a lot of people still don't know about this, Barton. I think a lot of people are still, they
mm,
think, well, how do I know if I'm deficient in something, and how do I know what I need? And when we talk about those things, people just go, do I just go get a blood test? Like, is that the most simple
mm.
way? And so talk to me about why hair over blood and what's the difference?
Right. So blood is you on your best behavior. And what I mean with with that, I could give you the mental image of like the little grade school kid on their way to the principal's office. It's like, oh, like let's straighten things up. Or people that know they have a doctor's appointment, they start, oh, I'm not going to drink or have sweets. I know I'm going to go to the doctor in a few days. So that's the sort of lab coat effect. And um, there's so many things, honestly. One though, accuracy. There's hair is tissue, so when you have tissue, you'll spot things that I'll tell you a brief story. So we did a hair test on an infant, and this infant was incessantly crying, incessantly
Mm,
crying. Couldn't figure out what was wrong. Just old enough to have hair, and we can also use fingernails too. Um, and so we figure out, we look at the toxicity and we see, oh, there's a lot of heavy metals. So heavy metals get downloaded from the mother if the mother is extremely toxic in heavy metals, and a lot of people are, men and women. And so we start to make some changes. uh, Baby improves, and basically the combination of that and believe it or not chiropractic solved. And so yeah, and there were blood tests, by the way. Blood
mm,
tests showed inconclusive data, right? So there's there's been research to show that, for example, lead, one of the common heavy metals, if you take in a bunch of lead in 30-ish days, 32 days, what the study said, you won't show any toxicity of lead in your blood because the body has stored it in
mm,
tissue. So that's what I mean exactly when I say
mm,
blood is us on our best behavior. So if we look at that and we see, oh, Mary, you're within range, you're like, well, I actually would love to know what I could fix. So that's not great news because I'm not here for no reason. I'm here to find some solution, right? So that's one thought. The fact that it's actually tissue. I started this analogy recently. So imagine you have to compare it to money, right? Three places you would put your money. You have a checking account, a savings account, and a retirement account, right? So blood then would be your checking account, And if we check your checking account and we go, okay, things look good here, that doesn't tell us the whole picture, does it? Like in terms of finance, right? But tissues in that example would be, essentially both of the other accounts. And so organs would, let's say, organs are your savings account, and your bone tissue, also tissue, just like hair is tissue. We think of it as being vastly different. It really isn't. Um, and this is hair taken close to the scalp or underarm, pubic, really anywhere. I've tested my beard before.
Hmm.
Like I said, we can use fingernail or toenails as long as they're free. But it is tissue, and that is what the body is ultimately using to regenerate, right? So it's great because blood, the thing that has. Well, let me come back. Let me finish this thought. So bone is like your retirement account, and so we would hope to never pull from either retirement account or savings account, right?
Right. Right.
The fact of the matter is, so many of us are, right? So my mother, before she passed, she was diagnosed with osteopenia, osteoporosis, all bone disease, all lack of ease, all lack of health in
Mm.
bone, totally directly caused directly. I mean, there's not that much there besides the elements, mineral deficiency, totally. And so we weren't seeing those things in blood tests. um, and so at least not with clarity, because the body will pull from wherever it needs to
Yeah.
ensure your blood has it, because the blood is important. To, like, that's like having to make your house payment or car payment or any other thing from your checking account. So it's going to pull from somewhere to deposit. Meanwhile, you make that payment, but things might be a disaster elsewhere. And that's really where a lot of people around the world are today.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I was thinking about how there are so many pharmaceuticals that also pull from your calcium stores, which is why they tell you to make sure you supplement. I was someone who was supplement with calcium very early on in my life because of the birth control I was on. They said, "Hey,
Mm,
this is going to pull from your calcium stores, and like you need to definitely supplement with some more calcium." And I was like, "Oh," but nobody tells you that there's different kinds of calcium, right? That calcium is like a
right.
general statement, and I was like, oh, and the same with magnesium, right? There's different kinds of magnesium. So people talk about things like magnesium, and no one tells you that there's different forms and different kinds, and they're all very different in how they absorb and
We
create changes in the body.
Yeah, I really figured something out there, and that is, well, two things there, just so everyone gets that. You almost never need more calcium, but because calcium's super easy for the body to get. What is really hard, and what's really the ratio that is in really screwed up essentially in nature right now, is the calcium to magnesium ratio and magnesium to potassium ratio. The soil just doesn't have a whole lot of magnesium and potassium. It has a lot more calcium for whatever reason. And so these are the things that become precious in our body because they're rare. And so what she really needed, and what you probably needed there, and what most people need, because those medications are causing a pH change in the blood, that pH change doesn't get buffered with calcium very easily. It gets
Mm.
buffered with magnesium. So,
Mm.
uh, and other minerals, but not calcium. Unfortunately, a lot of times they may show that, oh, the calcium is actually low in the blood, or the iron is low in the blood, and it's actually high in the tissue. Because in the case of iron, a lot of people think they have anemia, and this is a whole nother thing I have started to write a book on, which is this myth around iron. And it's actually killing a lot of people,
Mm.
because people are being told that, oh, you're low in iron, you have anemia, and they it's just not understood that your tissues, two facts that totally change the game. Your tissues, and I'll see if you have a totally different view on this, and then we'll come back to where we were, can hold 10 times more than your blood. So your tissues hold 10 times more, are capable of 10 times more storage
Okay.
of iron than your blood. So if you have too much iron, just like when people had the COVID vaccine, they unfortunately freed up a lot of iron in all of their cells because the virus really simply didn't have a metabolism. It hijacked the metabolism of the cells in your body, and then it would run the cells out of copper and magnesium to proliferate, and therefore would leave a lot of iron unbound in the system, causing arterial damage and,
Mm,
sure enough, eventual deaths for people. And a lot of heart related issues, breathing related issues. That was actually the elemental effect of it. And
mm,
so that's one, the 10x rule there with iron. The other is 96%. Just want everyone to, I want you, as you're listening to this, to remember that number. Now, when you think about it, if you knew that there was a system in the body that, oddly enough, very few people, even in health, are aware of, that recycles all your iron, nearly all, 96%, that you ever take in, would it be likely that many people would be deficient in iron? And the answer is, well, no, it wouldn't. Turns out that is the case, though.
mm,
And we're totally misprescribing it. And that's why so many people are having super poor health and dying as a result in some cases. So, yeah,
mm,
that's one of the myths out there that's really hurting people. What they actually are needing is copper. They're actually needing vitamin A and these things that support the use of iron. And so this whole world, to me, to zoom out a bit, has been so interesting, because what I realized a long time ago as a chemical engineer is, the periodic table really is what we're made of. It is a tabulated form of stardust. It's just,
sure.
it's all the
Yeah, we
elements
are.
on the whole planet. So why aren't we using this better? And
Mm,
what is the optimal way to test our bodies for this? And so that's really what we do, and then optimizing the absorption of those minerals. So it is a myth that we need all these different forms of a particular mineral. That was the other thing I wanted to touch on.
mm,
If you use a process like ours, which of there, I mean, there, I don't, I mean, very, very few out there in the world. Um, Otherwise, yeah, you are using a sort of man-made version where you're saying, hey, we have these 8 forms, or these 7 forms, or these 3 forms of this. Now, what you have to ask yourself, even with like just if someone has just if you have basic knowledge in this area, does the body do it this way with food? And what I'm really asking is, did we evolve this way? So I always
mm.
ask people to think in evolutionary terms. Now, did your super great grandparents way, way, way back, and also just 2 generations ago before supplements were popular, did anyone, even a generation ago before supplements were popular, did anyone go around, oh, I don't have magnesium threonate, my brain's not going to work? Like, no, they just got
No,
magnesium
they didn't
from
know.
whatever
Yeah.
they ate, right?
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. I was going to
So,
say my grandfather lived to be like 98 years old, and he was a strong man. He was a farmer. And you're right. There's poor farmer at that. Like there was
yeah,
nothing available. We couldn't go online and order
yeah.
our supplements and feel stronger. You either had to have some intuitive knowing, which I definitely believe we all have as well, right? Like I know when I
Right.
do need more B vitamins or when I do need more iron, my body craves a steak. It just
Hmm.
does. And it says to me, "Hey, let's go get a steak." And because I don't naturally sit around thinking about steak. I know
Hmm.
many of you love steak out there. I don't share the love of steak with you, but once in a
Hmm.
while my body's like, "Hey, by the way, like now's the time." And I go, "Oh, look what I need a little more of."
Hmm.
So that's and also I love the hair mineral testing because it gives me a very clear indication of what may be showing up for me that I can correct. And after during my breast cancer healing journey, that was definitely a big piece of it, is just getting back to a place where I can feel good again in my body and feel like I'm getting everything that I need. And the interesting thing I saw in the first test that I ever got from you guys was that I was naturally low in sodium and potassium. And I came to find out my mom has the same indicators on her tests as well when we tested her. And I was like, oh, wow, it's almost genetically we have something between the
Mm-hmm.
two of us that we're just naturally kind of low in those. And I was like, how do I make sure that everything fires and is wired together the way it's supposed to
Yeah.
be? So I salt my water. I
Mm-hmm.
throw a little extra sorts of potassium in there. And I also, of course, make sure I'm getting bananas and potatoes and things that I know will have some natural potassium in them. But as you said, how much of it is depleted from our soil? How much am I actually getting? Well,
Mm-hmm.
I keep testing just to make sure that I'm getting, enough of what I need. And I love that you have made a really simple way to put things into something that has got a great absorption rate. Because that's the other thing that happens is we take a supplement and it doesn't absorb. I think a lot of people, Barton, also aren't fully educated on the fact that some things don't work together. Like you wouldn't take some things with others, and it's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
same even in the vitamin and mineral world, y'all. In case you didn't know this, if you're just downing all of your vitamins and minerals at once at the same time in a day, you're probably wasting some of those. And I'd love for you to just share real quick, like what would you say are the two that you definitely should not have together? Like, can you list off a
Mm-hmm.
couple of those? Because I know you know what they are.
Yeah. Really, to go back to iron, iron would be the main one. And then, if you're doing something like high calcium, it's going to um, not not limit the absorption, but certainly push out, if especially if you're already high. And there's a good chance that if you're listening to this podcast, congratulations. I can almost tell you, I mean, 90, I'll just say this, 95 or more percent of people are deficient in magnesium, and they do have too much calcium, and that is a really important ratio in the body that governs blood sugar and insulin response. So if that's off, your mood is off. And so the really interesting part of all of this, like how do you spend so much time in here? If it wasn't for the psychology piece that I see so clearly through hair testing, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting. But what we're doing is helping people reform their ability to respond to life through nutrition, through having a clear path forward, through having more understanding. So yeah, certainly
Yeah.
iron. And then, I mean, there's just a lot of other supplements that some are fat soluble, and you really need to take them with food. Um, I find that like zinc is can be hard on people's stomachs. So in general, find what works, and then just consult like really knowledgeable people. Just it's just like any other area you care about improving in your life. Like get good advice.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Get good
yeah.
advice. I like that one. I like that one a lot. Yeah. And
Mm,
y'all, I cannot scream enough about the magnesium, whether you're getting the
mm,
liquid form or the pill form.
100%.
One thing that I've always loved about you, Barton, is at events, you always bring your tinctures and you always bring your supplements and you leave them out generously for people to try. And you say,
Yeah.
hey, go, just do it for a night and let me know how you
Yeah.
feel tomorrow. And that's how
Yeah.
quickly people are feeling the difference. And I think that people, y'all, America has a sleep epidemic right now. And I have to
Mm,
tell you, there's an easy fix to that. And it starts with the right supplementation. And these are high quality supplements that are
mm,
going to be good for your body. They're going to be good for your soul, and they're going to be so good for your sleep. So
yeah.
if there's anything you hear today, just know that these are some of the best on the market. When I'm talking to my friends about sleep, people are telling me they're having sleep challenges. I point them right over to Upgraded because it's such a great product. It's such a miracle worker. And you're
Yeah.
right, Barton. So many people are actually really low in magnesium and they're not getting the right kind of magnesium. And I think that part
Yeah.
is also so important. And to be fair, like nobody teaches us this stuff,
No.
right? Nobody points it out on the shelf. We don't get an opportunity to do that. So until someone like you comes along and gives us an education or someone that's tried it.
Yeah.
What I would love to know from you is because I feel like this is another piece that's so important because when we're talking about things like testosterone, for example, we often hear like, oh, that's for men, right? It's always
Mm,
advertised to men. Testosterone is always
yeah.
advertised to men, but it's really Like we all
Mhm.
need it, and it's not going to make us grow, ladies. It's not unless you want it, I guess. I don't know
Unless you
who
took a
wants
huge
facial hair,
amount or
but
something.
I'm going to say for most of us, yeah, like we're not looking to grow facial hair, and I think there's some fears around that. So, can
Mm.
you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, the fun. Uh, it's like that the age old conversation of, oh, I don't want to lift weights. This is like
That's right.
any woman talking that hasn't lifted weights for years in and out. I don't
Right.
want to lift weights because I'll get bulky.
I look
And
like
it's
a
like,
man.
wow,
Yeah.
there's so many men out there that wish they could, and they have on average 10 times more testosterone than women, and they wish they could easily put on muscle mass, and they're in the gym several days a week.
Yeah.
Um, so we all need muscle mass. It's sort of a longevity organ, so to speak, and so because it, in let's zoom out towards the end of life, frailty is what gets a lot of people. Their balance isn't great because they're not moving enough. They're not moving enough because they have really like calcium buildup. It comes back to everything we're talking about. So they feel stiff. It's not comfortable, and they sort of their energy levels lower as a result. Their thyroid functions lower as a result. All these things we see in the hair test, by the way. So this is really a right now solution for optimizing your life. This is also a longevity solution, anti-aging solution, because of course your skin is tissue too, and that's going to reflect if you are, highly toxic in different elements and highly deficient in others. So, it's really all of the above. Like your ability to detox things is going to be hugely impacted if you have, a deficiency like any of the ones we talked about that are really important.
Yeah.
And especially things like magnesium. Yeah, and I love that you shared that about giving products away. It makes me really happy to see people use the products, and whether they pay for them or not, if they see us at a show or something. And because I mean, there's nothing more gratifying than seeing change and transformation in people, I think.
Yeah.
And right. And so I really love that. And um, there's, God, there's so many different ways to talk about this, but with hair, you're really you're really supporting your personality, and with and that is, for example, I'll tell a brief story. So there was a friend of mine a while ago, and we she had been doing a lot of different, hard things. She had run a half marathon. She had been training for a lot of things, and I could tell she was just like not her normal self.
Mm.
And she sort of like just lost her cool. She told me her car got towed, and yeah, she broke up with the person she was like just was just at her wits end, like hanging by a thread basically.
Yeah.
And um and it turned out i I got her results in like 2 days after that, because she had sent them in. She could tell something was wrong, she just didn't know what
Mm.
was. And her sodium to potassium ratio was so low that it was in the range that, and this is not super uncommon by any means,
Mm.
but it was so significant that it would be labeled bipolar by a psychiatrist or
Wow.
psychologist. So the good news is that is reversible, and so that is, that's something to think about. I think the most hope inspiring thing that is a core tenet that I teach is it's all reversible and it's all possible as a result. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. So good. So good. Yeah, we can make
Oh, and
so many
sorry.
great positive changes. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to jump in. I just realized too, I wanted to touch on the testosterone part that you talked about in terms of supplementation. Another brief story. So one of my most fit female friends, she was probably 30. It's a couple of years ago when I was having this conversation with her. And upgraded tea was just coming out, and we were sitting in a sauna together in Austin when I was still living in Austin. And she said, "Oh yeah, I'd love to try it. I take a testosterone cream like twice a day." And I was like, "Oh wow, interesting." I thought
Mm.
she was just, I mean, she already worked out. She already had eaten well her whole life. She had been a personal trainer. Even her that throughout her entire lifestyle, nutritionally at least, and workout. I mean, she was a close friend too, and she worked for me as a nutritionist. She was one of our six nutritionists at the time. She that was helping people with going over the results with this hair analysis. And so, actually, this might have been right before she came to work with us. She said that she was doing this, and I was just so surprised. And I've gone on to realize that so many women either are on testosterone replacement at early age, even women,
Mm.
and that nearly all women and men, by the time they're 25 today, thanks to soil quality and environmental toxicity, water and air, for example, being so much, I mean, like literally 1,000 times more toxic was a real metric than in recorded history. You know, when you look at like traffic in major cities, water in major cities. Thankfully, we're about to start a nationwide ban on fluoride. It sounds like, which is
Yeah.
not at all helpful to the teeth at all. This is just a mistake they made a long time ago, and then they just went with it. It's just too painful to
Yeah.
reverse an error, I guess.
Mm.
And I mean that's at least one story, but regardless, it's not
Right.
good, and it's pretty documented. But it does slow people down mentally and cause issues with the pineal gland, and therefore, higher level thinking and
Yeah.
intuition, like you're talking about, that I value
Yep.
so much.
Yeah.
Right, those divine downloads. You get a
That's right.
lot more of those when you're healthy, and that might be one of the most spiritually, you know, one of the most spiritually empowered, or just such a beautiful gift as a side effect of getting physically healthy and mentally healthy.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yep.
and so this testosterone piece was just key. So she started taking upgraded tea, and she eventually got off of her testosterone replacement, and she feels a lot better. She's not dependent on a cream, and this is 5 nutrients that are all clinically studied, that we've done a clinical trial on as well. But each one of the nutrients that we're using is the right nutrient that has a little R trademark by the name, and that means that in this case, at least, those have gone through a clinical trial, their own clinical trial that company paid for, and they found the right dose and the right frequency and things like that, and they saw
Mm.
certain improvements. So they all helped improve testosterone, but they all also, well, not all, but many do improve nitric oxide, which is great for the pump in the gym, for feeling vascular.
Yes.
Great for sex, great for health, great for blood flow and skin. I mean, it's heart health. It's so many different things. It's nutrient transport. So, so that's huge, and so
Upgraded
it's
tea,
sort of,
y'all.
yeah,
Just so you know, it's the upgraded tea. I love it so much. Yeah, it's great. Such a great product,
yeah.
Barton. So many
Thank
of
you.
your products are, and I really I rave about them. And I want to acknowledge you because around what you were saying about that you love seeing people try your products as well.
Hmm.
One of the things that's always stuck with me, because it was one of those things that made my brain go, and my brain and my heart go, this is just a good human, was we it was the beginning of the pandemic, and one of our friends threw a very big birthday party, and at this birthday party it ended up being unfortunately
Oh yeah.
a little spreader event, and so many people got sick, and you had just met some of these people, like you didn't like necessarily
Yes,
know
first
all
time.
of them intimately. It was like a first meeting, and
Hmm.
you right away were like, "Hey, Mary, do you have some of these people's addresses? Because I want to drop them like a goodie bag of products that are going to help them through their healing process while they've all got COVID." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, super generous and super kind." And your only concern was like, "Hey, I know a lot of people got sick, and like, how do we help them? Because these are my community." And I think it's such a great example of how people figure out in community what their part is, right? If we were a little Indian tribe and we all lived, in our village off to the side, and there's 200 of us, it's figuring out like, where's your spot? How do you support people and love on them? And that's essentially what
Yeah.
you did. You were like, this is my little tribe, and like, I know I can help in this way. And how do I spring into action and do that? So I just really wanted to acknowledge you, because it's something that always stuck with me for a very long time, to be able to watch you do that for others. And I just thought it was really kind and really generous, and it was fun to, be able to witness that and experience it, and then watch just the reaction that it gave other people. And obviously, it gave them a chance to also try your products and go, wow, these are amazing. And then I even think about the brothers in Canada, how, introducing them to your electrolyte product. Just, it's
Hmm.
super strong, it's super good, but these guys, they party, and
They do.
they take
And they work like crazy,
yes,
and
because
they travel
your
like
charge
crazy.
works so good. They travel, and these are great because they come in just the right size, and they travel with them, and they're like, how do we get more of this stuff? Because it
Yeah.
remineralizes them so quickly. They can't always go get a vitamin IV when they're somewhere, and it's such
Yeah.
a fast turnaround. So
Hmm.
thank you for making great products, and for, being part of my community, and of course, creating even bigger community through great products and services, and just your service in the world. And I know that so much of it came about your own journey, and obviously watching your mom.
Hmm.
It's so hard when we see the people that we love in any kind of
Right.
suffering, but it's
Suffering. Yeah.
isn't it
Hmm.
yeah isn't it amazing, like, what a catalyst that can be,
Hmm.
that these lessons as they come, like, would you be as
Devoted.
ferocious,
Yeah.
yes, and devoted
Yeah.
about your cause if things hadn't happened in the sequence of events that they did?
Not at all, right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
might be
yeah.
doing probably a totally different industry, like, and this
Mm,
is, not only is it like work life, but and you see, this too. It's community too. You've, because you find other great people if you're like intentionally in whatever career you're in. It's just following the golden thread. I think it's when we're given challenges, it can offer us meaning and purpose when we come out the other side with the lessons, if we are
yeah.
lucky enough to make it out through the other side. And so, it's funny, just you just sharing that reminded me of a story. My friend Tara's mom, I hadn't thought about this in years, actually. This is as COVID had started. She was already in she was in the hospital already, and then she got COVID, and
Mm,
the hospice nurse called her and said, "Hey, I want to just be very, I want to shoot you straight, and this isn't an easy call to make, but your mom may not make it through the night,
mm,
and you should come if you can." And and so and she had just been there at the hospital, just gotten home, and she called me, and I said, "Hey, let's send her a few things." She had a couple other friends send her a few things, so it wasn't just this, I don't think. But she was able to start eating. She had stopped eating, which is a sign,
mm,
a real bad sign for both animals, humans. When people stop eating, I mean, it's usually not good, and it's sort of a matter of time. And instead, she started eating again after like 12 hours of supplementing, and then she ate again this twice the second day, and two or three times the third day. And by the third day, she was they had a different problem. She was up on her feet and trying to move around. They're like, whoa, 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 like stay, stay in the bed. And Tara was like, I will take that, I will. And so she actually got her appetite back, because her immune system was so low, it was so depressed. And so, that was a key moment where I remember thinking, one, I can't believe that we were able to make such a change. It was literally life and death, and we contributed greatly to that with just a couple of products like our iodine, our zinc, or I think our peak thyroid, a blend of different things, our magnesium that's going to allow people to get more deep sleep and REM sleep. By the way,
yes.
in the clinical trial, just to touch on that, deep sleep and REM sleep in the trial, and it was more than this outside of the trial, 250% improvement in deep sleep and 160% improvement in REM sleep in 14 nights, four
It's
capsules.
amazing.
So yeah, we were like, just couldn't believe that the trial actually bared that out, but it
That's
was
so
great.
cool. I'm not shocked. It's so
Yeah,
cool, and I know how good your products work. So I say I'm not shocked, actually, that
yeah,
they're stellar results. And I'm reading a book
yeah.
right now called Why We Sleep, and it's
Oh
so
yeah,
good
Matthew.
because it
And
Yes, it's so clear about just even how, like, when babies are forming, like, how REM sleep just ramps up right at the end, and also
mm,
how things like alcohol interfere, with
mm,
our sleep. Even if you only have a couple drinks, like, it actually interferes with our REM sleep, and it's like that's like, study after study also shows that. So, just the impact of, our lifestyle. I'm not saying don't ever go out and have a drink, but
right.
also, like every day, every night, if your bedtime routine is a hot toddy before you go to sleep, you're probably not
Yeah.
getting the best ideal sleep to actually regenerate and let your body do what it needs to do. And I know I robbed myself of so much sleep for many years,
Yeah.
in the name of work and achievement. And it's
Yeah.
so nice because I feel like it's reprioritizing what's really important. And man, a good night's rest, I am jamming all day
Mm.
long, and ready for bed at the end of the night and happy to tuck myself in and get that rest and rejuvenation and do it all over again the next day.
You know, oh, that's beautiful. You really touch on something there, which is when people are chronically tired, they reach for alcohol. Like
Mm,
I mean, I may have had 10 drinks last year and the year before that, probably even less. And, and plant medicine helped with that more than anything.
yeah.
The reset of that, right? Whenever you start to go, and you start to even think about alcohol anymore, go back to that is my advice. Have some, good guidance in that. And so what else though? It's a such a vicious cycle, right? Whenever we are tired because we didn't sleep well last night, we're 60% more likely to snack if we didn't get enough sleep,
Mm,
and to
mm,
binge, and to, or not necessarily binge, but to eat things we would not normally eat. So we're like, oh, well, I know I'm gluten free and I'm dairy free, but that chocolate cake looks great, And it's like, it's like,
right, right.
honestly, wouldn't even had the thought. I would have been focused in conversation, enjoying, feeling great mentally and physically.
Yes.
But when you get just a fraction of the sleep you could, or and that compounds either one way or the other, you start to reach for, oh, I just need more energy. Your body starts craving sweets because you didn't have enough protein, because you ate poorly, because you slept poorly. It's
Yeah.
such a it yeah. I mean, it is such a linchpin, sleep, that is. So when we can improve that,
Yes.
just like when we can get people to absorb things, even though they still have a fairly broken digestive system and they've yet to heal that, they can heal that later if we can give them a leg up now, right? It's
Mm,
it's a it's such a momentum driver. It's like creating inertia, which is the hardest thing to create in the body, is positive inertia.
yeah.
And when you give that, right, then you go, okay, whew, I can think now. I can finally think and reprioritize my entire life because I slept well last night. I haven't slept well in months or years. And then
Yes.
that compounds, right? In a year of that, 2 years of that, you're a different person. You have a different life. You're living
Yeah.
different values, at the end of a year or two of that. You have a
Absolutely.
different social circle, possibly. You might live in a
Yeah.
different part of the world, right?
Possibly. Yes, yes, so good. Everyone, this has been such a good call. Barton, thank you. Thank you for your love today. Thank you for your energy and for bringing us all the goods. Y'all, if you want to get in touch with our guest today, just check out the show notes or pop down into the comment section and you are going to see all the ways to get the goods. Head over to upgradedformulas.com. The products are amazing, and they have the ability to literally change your life and change your health. That is today's live show, and we are going to head over to YouTube now, over at the Mad Love Your Life show, and we're going to continue this live, and we're going to dive into fun stuff like relationships and wealth
Yeah.
and business with Barton, and deep dive. We'll even probably talk a little bit about some plant medicine. So if you need the link, you can head over to maryd.com and grab it. Until next time, may abundance always walk beside you, may joy always go before you, and may love always guide you on your path. Thank you for tuning in to today's show.
We air live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Bold Brave TV. We hope to see you back next week. For more ways to connect with my guests, content, programs, and retreats, just head over to www.marydee.com and subscribe. That's MARYDEE.com.